If you're dating after 40 and you keep attracting Mr. Unavailable on repeat, and what you really want is lasting love with Mr. Right, you're in the right place. In this episode, we'll dive into healing childhood patterns that keep you chasing. Let's get started. Welcome to episode 38. This is the second episode in season 4. If you were listening to episode 37, I talked about why emotional healing matters so much when you're looking for love, especially after 40. In this episode, we're going to dive into healing childhood patterns that keep you chasing and get into more of the specifics. This whole entire season is going to be about emotional healing. And if you've listened to my past episodes, you know that I emphasize this because even though I'm a Reiki teacher and I've done a lot of energy work and I hired dating coaches and I did all of those things, I was mostly focused on the energy healing part and some of the dating strategies, but without the actual emotional healing at the heart level. It's very difficult to break your patterns, and it's very difficult to actually have a new experience and bring in the kind of love that you desire. That's why I really want to talk to you about all the ins and outs around healing emotions. And I know it can be very scary, especially if you're an intuitive or a sensitive woman and you're just kind of freaked out a little bit around emotional healing like I was. I was loving the intellectual part of it. I love all the checklists and how do you go on the dating apps and which apps are better and all of those things, which are very important. But I love to just stay in my head. I was like a talking head. And I also love doing the energy work. And the energy work is extremely transformative as well. But the missing piece was the heart. When the heart is really burdened with a lot of childhood trauma or pain or past relationship heartache, without specifically dealing with that emotional pain and doing the healing work around it, it is very difficult to move forward and to actually, as I said, change your patterns and to have the space to be available for choosing what's best for you and choosing differently and choosing in a way that you're going to find the person who's going to be harmonious for you, who's going to show up fully for you as you are showing up for them. Keep that in mind as we go through this episode. I want to really help you think about how your early experiences with your parents, with your childhood, with early relationships really shaped the themes that you're going through right now, the dating patterns that you are experiencing and feeling like you're constantly chasing after someone or trying to do all of the things to get their attention, and you feel like they keep pulling away, and it happens again and again, and it's like a different guy, but it's the same pattern that keeps happening, and it's incredibly frustrating. I want to tell you about a client of mine who grew up with emotionally unavailable and narcissistic parents, and she kept replaying that dynamic when she was looking for love, and she had been divorced, and she had pain and trauma around that as well. And we worked on how are these painful emotions, feelings of abandonment showing up as a pattern now in your dating? And how do we connect the dots and really see how those past experiences are influencing the choices you're making right now so that we can start moving away from the idea of, well, there's nobody who is a good match in my city, or this app doesn't work because it's mostly all fake accounts and married men. Which that's true, but I don't want you to be living in that sense of disempowered loss of hope. I want you to feel and know that you can actually take charge of your experiences and do it in such a way that you can find your own Mr. Right. It is possible. As I worked with my client and we were able to heal and peel away those layers of the painful emotions of being abandoned as a child and not knowing her sense of self and having so much doubt and just struggling with constantly giving her power away to other people, and mainly her caregivers, once we started to unravel and heal those things, she was able to start making loving choices for herself and put herself out there on dates in an empowered way and make decisions and not give her power away and not go for the same type of person who was not going to show up for her. I just wanted to show you that that is possible even with the most painful experiences. Of course, I always recommend if you are going through some very heavy stuff from childhood that you do hire a professional, someone who's going to help you with your mental health and help you heal those emotions and wounds. But I want to give you a framework in the dating world to take some of that support that you're going to get and take some of the things that I'm offering here as strategies and healing tools and combine them together to create a really empowered dating plan where you can move forward and really transform your life. A couple of things I want to bring up, and specifically around chasing after unavailable guys. And that's my main theme because that is what I went through as for decades as in my own dating life. And my own experience was an emotionally unavailable father who was not able to connect with me on a heart level, who was not available for me. And in my family growing up, there was a lot of narcissists in my family as well. So I didn't have a sense of self until I was much older. Intelligence was favored over anything and not emotional intelligence. It was more like schooling, and being smart was considered the end all be all. So that was really the messaging that I received as a child, as a teenager, was don't rely on your looks. I would get the validation that I was attractive, but it's like, don't rely on that and don't use that as anything. It was almost like discredit and discount any physical attractiveness and only focus on your intelligence because that's the most important thing. And definitely don't learn about emotions and don't learn about emotional intelligence. It left me with that sense of being a talking head, like I was saying earlier. I couldn't connect to my heart. I didn't know what I was feeling half the time, and I didn't know myself. I would constantly seek out that outside validation with the guys that I was dating. And of course, looking for that father figure or somebody who would validate me in a way that I wasn't getting from my own father. This was a very painful journey that I went on. Of course, chasing after all the things and you never find it because that's obviously not what you're going to find when you're dating someone. It's pretty much a lifelong futile chase. When I started to really heal those wounds and heal the heartbreak that I never had the father that I needed, and all of those things going into a deep healing, I was able to actually have a relationship with my dad that I consider somewhat of a miracle to this day. It's not that he changed, although he did change, he has evolved as a person. I am able to connect with him in a way that I never thought was possible. It may be not the fantasy that I had as a child, and it might not be the way that I always thought it would look or wanted it to look, but it's an amazingly deep kind of relationship in its own self. I did that healing, and I was also able to heal that inner child need and stop chasing after the unavailable guys and stop trying to emotionally connect with someone who was not available and stop that futile chase and just start looking for someone who was already available, who could show up for me in the way that I was showing up as a person and what I could bring to the table. All that to say is I did a lot of work on that connection between having an unavailable father, or maybe it's an unavailable mother or parents, caregiver, and connecting it to my attraction to unavailable men. It showed up in my friendships and in all kinds of ways, but specifically around dating, it was definitely something that I was on that journey to find what was never going to be found. One of the exercises that I help my clients do and that are in my courses is to uncover the themes of your relationships and your early experiences and to pinpoint exactly, for example, we can do an exercise right now. If you journal or on your computer, what are the main themes in the relationships you've had? And what are some of the themes as a child? You're not going deep into the details. You're not getting overwhelmed and in that tangled forest of emotions. You're not going in somewhere where you're not going to be able to easily navigate through. I want you to do the high level eagle bird's eye view of your life and relationships right now. Just pull back and take a look and find a theme. For example, for me, it was betrayal. It was being let down. What is it? Abandonment. Is it feeling not good enough? What is the theme of your relationships and your early childhood? Is it being invisible? Those are some other examples. Write a couple of those down. It's literally a word or two, a phrase, anything like that. And then I want you to connect the dots with that theme of how you think that's showing up in your dating life right now. For example, if betrayal is a theme when you do your bird's eye view, and then you look back to, say, dating in the last 6 months or to 1 year ago, how many times did you feel betrayal, even on a micro level? Betrayal could look like someone just being really interested in you and you dated them for a month and you were super excited about it. You were like, this guy is amazing. I just totally love it. And then all of a sudden, boom. He is gone. He just stops talking to you and disappears off the face of the earth. That is a betrayal. You could also classify that as an abandonment. Take some of your experiences from the past year and connect the dots from your theme overall in your life of what you have experienced emotionally, because this is going to be very helpful later on. Now we're going to talk a little bit about your inner child and then go back to bring it all together. If you feel like you need more help, I really encourage you to find someone who you connect to as a mental health professional who can talk you through some of these things and help you through the theme of dating and your early life. Let's talk about the inner child. This can be sort of a thing that people say, oh, your inner child, and roll their eyes. But the inner child healing that I have done has moved the needle forward for me so much in my emotional healing, and it has been a major theme of healing for me. Your inner child runs the show pretty much until you actually take the time to see her or him, validate her, sending her unconditional love around what she has gone through without wanting to fix or do anything about it. Just saying, I see you. I know what you've been through. It makes perfect sense that you would feel this way. It makes perfect sense that you need this from me and I'm here for you. And all of those kinds of validating and loving things that you can do for your inner child. Those are beautiful and extremely powerful exercises. I will just die on that hill that it is extremely transformative to even do those small little exercises. Even right now, you can take your journal out and do some journaling around what does my inner child need right now. You would just take a few moments to close your eyes and take a deep breath. And you can even do it right now. And writing down just anything that comes to mind. It could be a symbol, it could be some words, it could be you have a memory or you have a picture of something that your inner child is doing, and just write down some of the things that you see. How old is she? What is she doing? How is she feeling? And what does she need? Is she saying anything to you, or is she giving you a symbolic thing like she's hiding under the blankets, and symbolically you can say she's afraid, so what does she need? It might not be a specific thing that you see or hear, but maybe a feeling, and spending some time witnessing and noticing that feeling and just allowing it to be. And these very seemingly simple exercises are so healing for you, and they will help your dating life immensely as you care for your inner child. The other thing you can do is archetypes. I've talked about this before in my podcast. An archetype is a form that is within you. It's within your subconscious. There's different symbols and forms that are archetypes within you that everybody basically has. You might have your own specific ones, but they're like the mother, the child, the hero, the warrior, different symbolic types like that. And you can actually tune in and find or ask for, what archetype do I need at this moment to move me through this emotional healing journey that I'm on? And just start with that. I've got a lot more resources if you look back at my different podcast episodes, and you can even do a search on my platform on Stop Chasing Unavailable Guys podcast, and make sure you're subscribed. But take a look at the past episodes and seasons and look for the ones on archetypes. And then you'll find more in-depth exercises that you can do. How are we going to bring this all together and start reparenting yourself in dating? Well, first I want to debunk some myths, because this is the reason I avoided emotional healing for so long, was because I believed these myths. The first one is, it means I'm a bad person if I feel bad things. And often if we're a sensitive person or an intuitive woman, we feel very judgmental towards ourselves. Like, oh, I can't feel this way. I can't feel jealous. I can't feel rage. I can't feel envy. I can't feel resentment, because it means I'm a terrible judgmental person. And you pile all of this stuff on top of yourself just for having human emotions that everyone has. And the more you can acknowledge them, the better off you're going to be. So remember that any kind of emotion you have, it doesn't mean you're a bad person. Second myth is, it means I won't ever stop feeling and I'll be overwhelmed. So if I start this emotional healing journey, if I really look into my heart, if I tune into my emotions and really see them and witness them, that it's going to literally drown in my emotions and they will never stop. That's a pretty common fear, actually. And the truth is, when we have even the most overwhelming emotion, even the hardest emotion, we think that we can't even fathom it or stand that emotion, it's only a couple of minutes. And again, I ask that you please get extra support if you feel that you're a little worried about this one. But through my own personal experience and through being guided with emotional healing, that it's a couple of minutes of feeling these really intense emotions. Or maybe at the most, when you've really opened yourself up, it'll be a couple of days where you're just feeling like, just like garbage. But then it goes away. It literally starts to leave your body and leave you so much space in your heart and your chest and your body. Everything has so much more space and you're so much lighter. And so that's on the other side of it. I promise you that if you start this emotional healing journey and of course get support, that you will stop feeling that way, that you will maybe feel intense for a little while, but it will dissipate and you will start to feel better in most cases. There are some situations where obviously if you're dealing with more intense or chronic mental health issues, it could be a journey up and down. And that's why I say you definitely need to get extra support around that situation. But I'm talking about the basic, the general. Most of the time, the general rule is if you start to feel emotions, they will go away. Even within a couple of minutes, they will dissipate and you'll feel so relieved. And the third myth I want to talk about is, if I process my emotions and it's just coming out and all this stuff, well, especially in the spiritual world, there's a lot of myths around, if I process my emotions, then I'm going to be putting my negativity onto someone else, or I'm going to be putting bad vibes out there. And actually, this is a very misinformed myth that's actually very detrimental, because it's the opposite. The opposite is true. When you actually witness your emotions and allow yourself to feel them and let go of them, you are going to be more present. You're going to be more available for someone else, for yourself. You're going to show up in a more loving, authentic, compassionate space. So when anyone starts to tell you like, oh, you can't let that out, or don't process before you go on the dating apps, or don't process before a date because then you're just going to put up bad vibes. Remember what I tell you here. The opposite is true. You will go in a clearer, more loving space, more connected to your true self, and it will be the exact opposite of that myth. Okay, so I want you to think about bringing it all together now. The emotional healing piece, start looking at your themes in your childhood. Start witnessing and allowing emotions to come up. Start journaling about your experiences, how they're connected to your past and how they're showing up now, and connect the dots. Get support from archetypes within you. You can go back and search for archetypes on my podcast and learn the in-depth meditations and things that I do. So you can go to my website, trulyeleanor.com, and I have different resources there for you as well, especially on my everything page. Then check in with yourself before signing on to the dating apps. Put your hand on your heart. How am I feeling right now? Make an intention, which is really like an energetic boundary for what you're going to do on the app. So give yourself a parameter. Say, I'm going to go on the apps for 15 or 20 minutes right now, or schedule it for tomorrow. I'm going to go on the apps for half an hour, and I'm going to connect to 3 guys that I'm interested in, that it feels meaningful and I'm interested in them, and I'm going to see where it goes. And that's your boundary. But before you do that, I want you to check in with your heart and your emotions and start letting some things go that might be weighing you down, or that might be causing you to see things in a way that is from your past instead of right now. The last episode I talked about, one of the sayings I like is, you don't see things as they are, you see things the way you are. So basically, it's like you see things through your own filtered experience, which is fine, but you just want to be aware of it so that you can move forward making more empowered and loving decisions for yourself rather than making decisions from your past heartbreak. And then another thing that I love to do is tapping. So do some tapping on those feelings. And this is the way that I do it, where you release those emotions that might be coming up that are triggering you, or you're feeling kind of that abandonment thing, or you're feeling sad, or whatever it is. And before you're going to be doing some dating strategies, get yourself clear, get your heart lightened and unburdened before you start doing that. You can go back again in my past episodes. I do a lot of tapping demonstrations and talk about that specifically. But basically, you're just going to pick one tapping point and tap on that and tell the story of the emotions and release the emotion. Sometimes it takes 2 minutes, sometimes it's 5, sometimes it's longer, but you're tapping and talking it out until the emotion comes up. And you know when you're having an emotional release when you start crying. So there might be some tears and might last maybe 1 minute. It's very quick. Or you start yawning, or you feel very tired and you feel like you have to just close your eyes for a few minutes and have a little cat nap. That's an indication that you have released a big amount of energy. And then you can go forward with a clear and lighter heart, and then make those decisions and find that all these opportunities open up for you. And all of a sudden you see things differently. Maybe you're like, oh, wow, there's a lot more opportunity on this app than I thought, or I think I'm going to go to this party after all. I feel really excited about it. And it's going to be a really huge shift for you. I hope this has been helpful. Our talk today on healing childhood patterns that keep you chasing and connecting those dots so you can figure out, what is my emotional healing journey? What do I need to do for myself to start clearing out the heartbreak and helping myself so I can find Mr. Right, so I can find that love that feels like home? And if you want to continue on a journaling exercise and challenge, I have my Detox Unavailable Guys Challenge, which is a beautiful little workbook where you can start working through some of these prompts and detoxing out some of these old patterns that you have picked up on over the years and move forward so that you can actually find love. So I hope this has been helpful. And next episode, we're going to talk about releasing old heartbreak without losing hope. We're going to go into more healing strategies, more stories, and more inspirational things that you can do around emotional healing. And we will see you next time. And remember, love is closer than you think.